is this simply a campaign gimmick?
Well, first of all, really I want to appreciate the fact that the president has been identifying a number of sectors and appreciating their effort, including the teachers of this country, who largely struggle a lot to have decent houses back in their places. Now, my worry is that I do not know if there is the law. I do not know whether there is policy, or the president just does pronounce a position and that becomes government policy, which therefore means it's not sustainable beyond the current regime. Secondly, it is also important that we do things in a way that it is predictable, that somebody can know exactly what's likely to happen, and how are we going to deal with those who may not find it convenient where to be in those areas where affordable housing has been done. I would have expected the president to have a clear policy on issues of allowing somebody to access affordable housing through his or her own effort, including the need to give some kind of cushioning for those who want to build houses. There are many people who may not really want to live in town or wherever those houses are, but they also need to have decent houses back in their own villages through some kind of funding. That should be the position. But of course, I know anything the president is doing nowadays is to see whether he can secure a second term. Right from whatever he has been promising, even getting involved in the games. When we had the football the other day, it's just to prepare himself and endear himself to young people, some of the fans and people from the sports fraternity. And therefore, even for teachers, it is just a gimmick. It may not happen because who is going to do an audit? How many houses were given to teachers, whether it's 20%, 10%, or none at all? Because you've been seeing even in the media, somebody say to have a house, later on he says, no, I've not gotten whatever it is. And some of the people complaining that the motorbike they were given in State House, at the gate they were told they will trace them up to their home. How will they trace them? They say they will use, was it WhatsApp? I do not know. So these are some of the gimmicks that the president doesn't really matter. Once you are announced and people applaud you, that is good news. Okay. Whatever details, those are meant for the officers. And if those houses don't get to the other people, he has created an impression that the president is working. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But according to the affordable housing regulations, allocation is not a discretionary process. It is tied to specific provisions, especially on eligibility. And this is something that was subject to legislative process, Bwana Makali Mulu. That eligibility is anchored on clear requirements. To qualify for allocation, one must have contributed at least 12.5% of the value of their preferred house. The law further states that allocation is conducted through a lottery system run by the State Department for Housing and Urban Development. The process is designed to be regular, fair, and transparent, free of any human intervention. That's according to the Boma Yangu portal. And the units are also restricted to first-time owners and beneficiaries who intend to occupy the property rather than resell or rent out. The problem is the law exists, but presidential pronouncements is what Kenyans go by. So when the president comes and gives promises, 20% to teachers, 20% to the disciplined forces, that's already 40% of all houses. Then more dished out to sportsmen and women, then what happens to the rest of Kenyans? And one wonders, will that happen, or these are simply political statements and we should rely on the law?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Fred. Thank you for hosting us. Maybe before I come to the issue of the housing issue, I would want to take this opportunity, Fred, to appreciate our athletes. You know, the two who won gold yesterday have done this country proud. And one of the things I really appreciate is when I see Kenya be ranked after USA. You know, it just says a lot. And I think anytime I watch these athletes winning gold, that's the only time it reminds me of the statement, najifunia kuwa Mkenya. You know, the rest is just tunang'ang'ana tu kuwa wa Kenya. But on the same note, Fred, I think it's also important we condole with about 3 families. The first one is the family of the lawyer who was murdered. The second is the family of the Mzee Chungwa, who is the father to our majority leader, who passed on. And in my village, we've lost one of retired teachers who has contributed a lot to our education in the village. So I would really want to condole with those 3 families and pray that God's grace be sufficient during this difficult time. But coming to the housing, I think what is happening, Fred, it just confirms that this issue of housing was not well thought out. If you look at the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, they promised every year they will be constructing between 200,000 to 250,000, so that in 5 years they will have done about 1 million housing units. And then, as you say, the law is very clear on how those units should be given to Kenyans, and who qualifies and who doesn't qualify. And I remember when we were discussing that law, because I was part of the team which was discussing it, initially the question we're asking is, those who contribute and have houses, how are they going to benefit from these houses? The earlier proposal was you make it like you contribute and then at some point you could also access a loan to buy a house. But after facing some challenges, technical challenges, I think we agreed to just build a levy, like the way you pay a tax and after paying you cannot claim anything. So on the basis of that, there is a clear framework in terms of what needs to be done once these houses are constructed. First of all, we are falling short, far too short of what was expected. So even if the ones we are constructing in terms of what should have been constructed and what has been constructed, we are doing very badly. Mm-hmm. Now, despite doing that badly, then it comes to the issue of allocating what has been constructed. And what has happened over time, we seem to have left this to the president and forgotten there is a law. There is no harm in this country teachers getting houses. But the question is, do they qualify? Do they fit the criteria which is well captured in the law? There is no harm when we see our footballers being given housing. We're happy that they get houses. But the question is then, does it fit into the law? And if it doesn't, then it means at the end of the day, we are going to have a framework which will not be enforced. And that's where issues of corruption come in. Mm-hmm. And I've watched the PS housing many times, trying to explain what they plan to do once these houses are constructed. And what the president is doing is far from what the PS explains to Kenyans. So, as we have said many times, we want to see more actions than talking. And I like what Honorable Kiro has said, that some of the statements we are seeing are just promises to entice, the people who are going to set out that if you will continue electing me or give me a second term, things can be better. But to me, the question we should be asking as Kenyans is, we have so many promises which were given during the last campaigns. And I like anytime I watch the debate about Route 23, I like that debate because it's educating Kenyans in terms of what was promised and what has happened. The truth of the matter is, the performance of this particular government is below expectation. And we have said, at times I've given them that. You remember, in this show, I've given them 30% most of in terms of achievement. But now, when objective, we look at it now, objective assessment of their performance is actually leading to about 5% achievement. Mm-hmm. Meaning we have even been very generous in terms of assessing them. And I think what they're doing is they're just trying all tricks in the book to get a second term. Mm-hmm. How I wish that Kenyans will remain alert, will remain smart to see the tricks being played behind the scenes.
But listening to the President, Bwana Odede, would Kenyans be justified to say that this whole plan for affordable housing was not meant to benefit the general public? It is down to the President to decide who benefits, because he's the one now saying teachers will get 20%, police and military will get 20%. Other Kenyans who contribute and who are hoping to probably benefit are wondering, okay, so where does that leave us? Are we right to say that, okay, fine, probably the promise that this was going to benefit the general public was not true.
Thank you, Fred. Like my elder here have started with the congratulations to our athletes. And of course, the messaging comes as a good news to Kenyans, and I believe, but it made me thought about something. Why we're not just capitalizing on what we think we are good in and dominating the whole world completely. It's like your son is doing well in athletics, and your son is also in school and very average in mathematics. Then instead of hiring the best athletics coach in the world, you are trying to hire the best mathematician to train your son. And then everything becomes average. Like the athletics where he is so good in comes down to meet the mathematics, which is being boosted a little bit. Then you remain with an average son on everything. I would rather we think the opposite. If my son is doing well in athletics, then I should hire the best coach in the world and dominate the entire world on athletics. So Kenya, according to me, from what I saw, we are sleeping on this thing. Let's dominate the athletics if it is our sports. There are countries which do not do all the sports at the same time. They pick one sport and that is what they dominate globally. But here we are trying everything, and then we are the ones we can use to dominate the world is coming down. The ones we are not so good in, we are trying to put everything to bring up, and then we are remaining average. But that is it. Congratulations to the team, Team Kenya. Coming to your question, Fred, there are two things I want to point out according to me. Number one, Kenyans entirely as a country, probably we fail at the time of campaigns because we measure on what and nobody talks about the how. So and it is going to repeat itself in 2027, and it has started maybe. So we only want to hear the presidential candidate talking about what they will do. But we don't measure on how exactly is this going to be done. And I have seen countries where a presidential debate is not just about what are you going to do. It is more of how are you going to achieve this. And probably this time, if it was my wish, we need not to just pick everything the presidential candidate say, I will do this, I will do this, I will make sure this, I will make sure that. How exactly are you going to do it? Because he promised the houses, and now the how could even be conflicting with the laws that are in place, but it is for him, it is what he promised, it is what he must deliver. And that takes us to the thinking that now the people are thinking about in terms of what is wrong and what is right. But the president and largely many political players at the top are thinking about what works for our regime and what does not work. So they are not thinking the same. So the people where I am, where I belong, are thinking about in terms of what's wrong and what's right in what you are doing. But the president and his team, whenever they sit in their corner thinking about the election of 2027, they are thinking in terms of what's going to work and what's not going to work for 2027 election. And that is where the conflict is. So I wish the leadership would be thinking the same way with the people, what's wrong and what's right. So some things are not wrong, but with the current situation, they don't fit in the frame. So if the affordable housing has got a framework and has got a policy, then even if you would have wished to give our sportsmen and women a show of goodwill in terms of giving them houses, the teachers, and even the men in uniform, you just realize it's a good thing, but it is not fitting in this frame. So maybe can we find another way that will appreciate the teachers in terms of getting good houses? Can we find another way that will appreciate men in uniform in terms of showing that this government appreciates the work you're doing out there? But you can't fit everything in one frame. It does not work like that. Then lastly, I think the president, as at this point in time, should now stop living in the old constitution where presidency was a bag of goodies. In the days when Honorable Kirwa went to parliament, I think that was okay because the constitution allowed all that. The district development funds, everything was channeled through the presidency like that. And so it was okay for the president in those days to just walk with bag of goodies, and when he is in your constituency, you would ask Mheshimiwa Rais, ukiona ni vizuri this road, then Mheshimiwa Rais would dish for you a road or two, hospital or two, school or two. But now we are in the 2010 constitution where this thing had moved, but the president still operates as if we are in the presidency with bag of goodies, and that is where you and I would be called to State House, we discuss, and the president says as if his word is law like the constitution before 2010.
Right. Wanakiro, you must agree that probably that's the thinking, that back then President Daniel Moi could even create a constituency as he walks around. We've seen now the number of delegations trooping to State House. And the belief is that once you go there, you come out with something. There's a carrot, so there's a tokenism. Do you understand this kind of politics? Because we've had other presidents after Moi, and we did not see a lot of this.
Well, it was a big departure because President Kibaki hardly had any delegations to State House. But once in a while, possibly when he's in some places like state lodges, you would have some delegations, people make their requests. And his standard statement was, we will check whatever is within the framework of government budget. And if it's not in the budget and is properly briefed, you would say that's not possible. But we are going to do 1, 2, 3. But whatever is happening now is actually the apex of campaign for the current regime. And I think President Ruto has decided to break all the laws that are available, to go against his own policy programs that he told us when he was running for office. As long as, because for him, I think second term is a desperate move. He believes that he has to win or nothing will happen. He's actually behaving like this is the last thing that he's going to do in his life. That if he doesn't win, then there will be no Kenya beyond that. It is important that when we are dealing with such issues, we have proper framework in terms of when he leaves office. I assume he leaves either 2027 or 2032. Is this program going to continue so that in the next 40 years, we can say as Kenya, we have now sustained some kind of housing program for our people, and the percentage of people without proper shelter has come down. But the way you see it, it is just campaign. And nowadays, it is impossible to believe statistics from government sources and from the president himself. Because what we are getting is that some of the houses that are said to have been done, the figures are below when you look at proper statistics from government sources. But the president talks about figures which do not exist in government books. It is something that we must be worried. Now, look even at the health sector. When they are talking of probe 31 investigations, like whatever is in the media today, to look for how 691 million shillings have been lost, really, within a short time of the existence of SHA. What is it that we failed to do? We should have been able to look at NHIF, fix whatever was wrong about NHIF, continue with the program. But we decided to bring out another program at the cost of over 100 billion, and that program is not sustaining itself. It looks that in the next couple of years, SHA may not be in existence at all, because whatever they are collecting is beyond whatever they are spending. Right. This therefore means every month there is a deficit that is run by the system.
But what does it say about Kenyans as well? Because the same Kenyans have been complaining that this president made a lot of promises. It is 3 years on, he has yet to deliver on them. And then you go to State House, even as teachers who have a lot of experience, even politically in Kenya, and they're promised 20% of affordable housing, and they go screaming in a frenzy. What does it say about Kenyans?
You know, the thing is, I like what my colleagues are saying. The issue is, when you look at the new constitution, the new constitution has really removed a lot of powers from the president to other institutions. For example, the budget-making process has been moved to the House. It's not the old days when the president would say, implement this, and it just is implemented. First of all, there is need for everything for public participation. That if you are proposing a program or a project, there must be public participation. And once that happens, then it comes to Parliament for processing, and then you get it into the budget. But you see what is happening, and I think Kenyans still take this matter very seriously. Some of these presidential pronouncements are the things which are leading us to continue borrowing, both domestically and externally, without any plan. Because, you know, this government came to power and promised Kenyans that we will not borrow anymore. In 3 years, they have borrowed 3 trillion. So on average, every year they are borrowing $1 trillion. And why that borrowing? Because what happens is the president goes out there, makes pronouncements that we are going to do this road, which is worth 1 billion shillings, another road here, and that road has not been factored into any plan. So since these are presidential pronouncements, and instead of Kenyans saying this is not what we have agreed in our constitution, that it cannot be funded, then the technocrats in the ministries go out of their way to get this money to implement. And that's why I'm telling you, Fred, if you look at the discussion around the Article 223, which allows supplementary budget, where the government can spend and come to Parliament for regularization, it has been abused to the extent you can't imagine. You see even roads are being funded from that article. What it is very clear that it must be for emergencies or things which were left out of the budget but of national interest. So Kenyans might take this very rightly, and when I see my teachers clubbing after getting these houses, I say hallelujah. But at the end of the day, the question is, where are we going to get the resources to finance some of these things? As Kira says, most of the items, most of the pledges this government gave out, their pledges or promises were not costed. So nobody took time to cost how much it takes to implement universal health care. As a result of that, what happens is you find what they are collecting in terms of revenue and the expected expenditure, there's a deficit. Anytime you have a deficit, you have only 2 options. Either you borrow to meet the deficit, or you scale down the activity so that you come to where your revenue is.
All right.
And that's why you see we are facing a lot of challenges. So what I'm saying is, even Kenyans, even as we club when the president promises these things, we need to think behind these statements. What is the implication of these statements? Could it be triggering more borrowing? Which means we are going to overburden our future generations. And I get very concerned. Actually, anytime I see these things, I say, I pity our young people. Because on a serious note, at the end of the day, it is them who will be paying these loans. When Makali and Nikir was here, more likely will be long dead in our graves. It is them who will be struggling to pay this. So I think time has come when we must derogate seriously some of these presidential directives, because they're not good for the country.
And even if we continue focusing on the Kenyans and our psyche, today, incidentally, it's World International Day of Democracy, and I'm told we need to go on a break. I'll come back to examine this because we seem to have gotten back to an obsession with the center. Everyone is trooping to State House. We'll be examining that after the break. You're watching Morning Cafe. Let's take a short break.
Our world is changing every day. social for the better. Week.
The housing bribe, that's the front page of the Standard this morning, talking about how President William Ruto is now using the affordable housing program as a carrot in his campaigns for 2027. He offered teachers who visited him on Friday at State House, Nairobi, 20% of all houses built under the affordable housing program. Previously, has promised military or uniformed forces or services another 20%. He's the same president who promised Harambee Stars players houses from the same affordable housing project. And we're just wondering, how will this work? But I wanted us to move the conversation to now Kenyans and our thinking, that whatever the president says, we tend to believe it. You saw the kind of reaction teachers had. And again, it comes down to, because I know you have very interesting opinions about democracy and how democracy should be working. We have fashioned our system and ensured that even our constitution allows to dissenter from the presidential system so that we can focus on our governors. Governors are not making this kind of promises. It's only the president, but we tend to troop back to State House every time. What does it say about our level of understanding of even the constitutional dispensation that we have?
Yeah, thanks, Fred. Like I was telling honorable members on break, according to me as a Kenyan, as a normal Kenyan, maybe housing program should have, and it goes back to what I had said, when the campaigns are happening and the promises are given, we, the Kenyan people, are not always quick to understand the how aspect of the promises. We only want to hear the what. And so the presidential candidate, number one, comes and says, I will do this. Number two, we move to number two, what will you do? I will do that. Number three, what will you do? And none of us is actually keen on putting them to account. How exactly are you going to do this? Because as a Kenyan now, it would be interesting for me to know that the government as a policy of housing, but it is done probably per sector. If it is teachers pay taxes. And so if you were having a meeting like that with teachers, it is to agree on what percentage of your taxes would you want to give for houses for the teachers, so for your house. And so the government could say, as executive, probably we are providing land. That is our contribution. Because the land is under government, that is our contribution. But your tax builds your house. If you go to the men in uniform, the sector of security, you do the same. There are many, they pay taxes and all that. But we can't have one housing program which anybody who approaches me, I say, you know, I have houses, I can give you this percentage. Anybody who comes, you know, I have houses, I can give you this. If you are moving around as a president of the country and you see one poor lady along the road, I can give you a house. Do you have a house? Because again, like Honorable Kirwa said, my place, rural home is Awendo, and I'm imagining one day when I retire to my home, my ancestral home, how would I go to stay in a flat in Awendo town? And my home is just so even if you tell me I am doing affordable houses in Awendo, should I be giggling and laughing? That is a beautiful thing. Coming to what you are asking, I think the missing link again goes back to now Parliament. We have a constitution which gave Parliament authority to oversight the excesses. These are one of those excesses. But you know, the president and the executive, and probably not just President William Ruto, I think our DNA or our software is still in the old constitution. And even President Uhuru and would still want to do this State House meeting. I think Uhuru is the one who started big with the State House meetings. Kibaki didn't do State House meetings, but Uhuru did a lot of State House meetings. And now William Ruto was his deputy, has taken it a notch higher. So it means they start with parliamentary groups having a meeting there. Then that opens the way, because it is parliamentarians who have gone, the first group who have gone to do a meeting in State House would be parliamentarians. Now, why do they want to stop other Kenyans from going to that State House for other meetings? I think they should have done their job well by first stating it clear. If it is UDA meeting, parliamentary group meeting, we have UDA headquarters. Let's meet there and discuss the politics of UDA. But anything that takes different groupings to State House has now metamorphosized. It is now taking communities. It is now taking ethnic groups to State House. And this probably may not end well, because we are now, we want Kambas in State House. We want Kalenjins in State House. Then Luos would, we have not gone to State House. How comes? Then Mijikendas will say, we have not gone to State House. So it is taking us back to the same thing we are saying every day we don't want. We want to be Kenyans. So it starts like professional groups, then it metamorphosizes slowly to ethnic communities, and then it's like every group want to sort out their deal. And once our deal is working for us, we don't care if the rest of Kenyans are uncomfortable, because like you are asking, teachers are already saying it is 2-term. Their thing is sorted according to them. But what about the rest of Kenyans? Are they comfortable? Is it okay the way things are done? That takes me back to what I said. Now the thinking is, the president and the executive thinks of what works for him, this regime, and 2027. But Kenyans are thinking, what is wrong and what is right? What is wrong versus what is right? So the president is taking every group into his thinking, what works for us. So if he calls the teachers and then the teachers say, this works for us, we don't care what works, what is wrong or what is right. This works for teachers. Then tomorrow it is the uniformed people. This works for us. It is okay as long as it works for us. We don't care what is wrong and what is right. The another day, it is a community X, community Y, Z. And then he has now managed to move all of you from the thinking of what is wrong versus what is right. You are now all thinking of, is this working for the Luos? I don't care what is wrong and what is right, if this works for us.
Right. And probably the president should just redo his mathematics, because so far he has promised 40%, over 40% the affordable housing. He's yet to meet doctors, fishermen, farmers, and the rest.
Yeah.
What will he give them if they end up going to State House? The housing bribe. That's the front page of the Standard. Talking about politics of 2027.
It's a bribe.
And I think the biggest news has been the realignments and the return of Rigathi Gachagua. At the weekend, Rigathi Gachagua, the former deputy president, actually declared his vying for presidency. It is one of the stories covered here at TV47. Let's watch it.
At the PCEA Ruringo Church in Nyeri County, Rigathi Gachagua sought both spiritual and political blessings. Surrounded by local and national leaders, the Democratic for Citizens Party boss declared he is ready to take the fight for State House head on.
Why does Rigathi Gachagua want to be president? I don't want to promise you lies that I'll build roads, I'll build dams, I'll connect electricity. Those are lies. The country is almost broke. We have a debt of 12 trillion. So telling people I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do that, ni uongo. Mchungaji umesema I'm a truthful man. If Kenyans elect me as president, Mungu akikubali, I don't want to promise lies to the people of Kenya. I want to do only one thing, to restore the Kenyan state to where Mwai Kibaki left us.
Gachagua accused President William Ruto's administration of betraying ordinary Kenyans with harsh policies, insecurity and rampant corruption.
Few things we want to do only. Make sure we restore our health system, that when you go to hospital, there are drugs.
He promised a government built on service delivery and transparency. The former deputy president contrasted his vision with what he called Ruto's failures, from extrajudicial killings to rising inequality. He also fired back at Ruto's jibe about his academic record.
When we look at the one saying how educated he is, in 3 years, the things he has done, abductions and extrajudicial killings, theft of public resources.
The DCP leader was flanked by his deputy Cleophas Malala, Nyeri deputy governor Kinaneri Waroy, and a host of leaders signaling growing grassroots backing for his bill. As he prepares to launch his campaign formally, Gachagua is positioning himself as the alternative to President William Ruto, promising security, dignity and a corruption-free government. Even so, this announcement comes on the backdrop of recent declarations from the group, now known as the United Opposition, that their flag bearer for 2027 shall be a chosen group consensus. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.
Yes, a lot of dynamics in play. Rigathi Gachagua is still battling his impeachment in court, but he has finally declared he's going for it.
Yes.
This changes the game, even for the united opposition.
Yes.
Many knew that, yes, he is probably the most vocal. We saw how mute the group was when he went to the US for about 2 months. And but everyone was thinking that, yes, Rigathi Gachagua, yes, he's the most vocal, but he'll play probably second fiddle and play kingmaker as opposed to going for the job.
Well, I don't think that script has changed. And what is important is that he is a presidential candidate, just like any of the other 7. Because as we've said before, is that we are not looking for one individual. We are looking for a team of individuals who know that whoever is chosen is first among equals. In that case, we want more of the team spirit, so that we do everything in a transparent way. We build trust that Kenyans have lost in government institutions, and we work as a team. Therefore, he is right, because we've not gone through that process. Actually, we may end up saying he's our presidential candidate. And therefore, I don't think he has contradicted the position that the team that I'm part of as engaged, that it's not about an individual. We want to see what can we do about this country. Because as he said, and I do agree with him, we want to restore confidence in government institutions. That when you go to a police station, you are sure you are going to get the service that police is supposed to dispense to Kenyans. When you go to hospital, when you go to a school, when you go to any office of government, you know if you are right, then you are going to be served to the best of the ability of the officer in the office and within the limited resources that we have. Mm-hmm. So that is the position we hold, and I would actually be naive to say that he has gone outside the script that we have as a united opposition.
Yet we saw Bwana Rigathi Gachagua move to Kambani, areas of Kambani, and promise to back Kalonzo Musyoka. And that meant a lot for the people of Kambani. For him to come out now and say this, well, maybe it's part of the script. But does it shift the dynamics in any way?
Not at all. I think agreeing with what Honorable Kiro is saying, there is a general agreement or consensus that each of the leaders who are to a large extent equal in terms of the capacity to lead this country should first of all consolidate their basis, and then based on that, then form that team, that strong team, which will now be able to say this is our flag bearer, and the rest can also now be supporting the rest of the team. And you know, it's a common principle in team building that a team is as weak as the weakest link. Mm. So what we need to do is to realize the strengths of each of the team members. And at the end of the day, they will agree that for us to be strong, then we need to make sure that the weakest link is also strong. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what everybody is doing. So the fact that he is trying to consolidate his base, which is Mount Kenya region, as he says, the rest of the team members are also doing the same in their regions. And what will happen is then at the end of the day, we'll have a big number, because you know politics is numbers. That when you sit on the table, you can, based on these blocks, you can put them together and then you agree that we are winning. And that is basically informed by the fact that when you look at our politics as a country, they are more of regional in terms of the way we structure them. We are looking forward to a situation where I don't know whether the Gen Z influence will change the earlier way we have been looking at our politics in terms of regional blocks. Because, you know, the Gen Zs are saying we are tribalists, we are tribeless, we are leaderless, all those things. So we are thinking at that, then we push our politics to issue-based politics, basically. But as at now, people are still thinking about regional blocks. And if that is the case, then basically we need to do what Gachagua is doing. That let everybody consolidate their base, and then based on that, then we can perform a team. But I think really we also need to be a bit, from where I sit, and this is my personal opinion, what we are doing, we have done it many times. I think this is the fourth time we are trying to do it. Where we did this when, you remember 2013, we did the same, and we were very late to say who is our presidential candidate. 2017, we did the same, and 2022. So what this building blocks does is, over time, it leaves Kenyans not sure who is going to be the team leader. And you know, politics, normally you win politics by ensuring that the undecided voter comes to your side. Because normally the undecided team is the one which makes the winning team. Because once they decide, then they go one side. So this idea of delaying so much the naming of the flag bearer, to some extent makes undecided voters also to start deciding early. And then by the time you are making your decision, people have already shifted. So I think even as we manage this process, let's not do things the same way and expect different results. I think it will be important this time that even as we do this consolidation of our bases, we tell Kenyans early enough who is our flag bearer. I think there's a fear of this person getting a bit of beating after being announced. But I think it's important we allow Kenyans, that particular person, to get the beating early enough so that Kenyans can do what it takes to do is analyze that particular individual and see whether that individual meets the bill. So that if it doesn't meet, then they can make their decision. But when we push this individual too late in the day, then there will still be challenges. The other thing is, as at now, we are not thinking about the technicalities. You know there are technicalities. We know Honorable Gachagua is also having a court case. He was impeached by Senate, but he has gone to court. The law says until you conclude that process, you cannot be stopped from being a presidential candidate. So he's still already in court. He has appealed that decision, and it has not been determined. So we are hoping, these are not the technicalities, some of the technicalities which can be used later to determine whether somebody meets the bill. Because if the courts say he cannot contest, then automatically it means you have to think of other people. And that's why I think what Kiro is saying is, we are still building those blocks so that at the right time, we will now look at the technicalities. You have your block, I have my block, but now who is the right person to take the team to the winning side?
Okay. There are those who argue that Rigathi Gachagua is a very radicalizing figure, that he would tilt the opposition dynamics in a certain way. But even more so, were you happy to hear him say that no more promises? Because just before that you were saying that yes, many promises have been made, but how will you achieve this?
That's again, for me, is shooting himself on the foot while preparing to take athletics sports, because when you're telling me there's no more promise, all these things can't happen, we are in a debt, then in essence, what are you telling us? How are we moving on? Because you're just telling us you will want to restore the country back to where Kibaki. We don't want to go to where Kibaki left us. We want to move past where Kibaki left us. And so, at this point in time, show me as a Kenyan that you have a better idea that will move us from where Kibaki left us. We are almost 15 years at the 2027 election. We will be 15 years past Kibaki. Why are you taking us back to where Kibaki left us, for God's sake? Why don't you move us from where Kibaki left us to a better place? Because you can't be asking me to vote you to take me back to 15 years. Yes, Kibaki came to power and there was free primary education. We want university education to be free. So Kibaki took us to free primary education from Moi. Uhuru tried to move us into free secondary school education. Please take us to university free. We can't be voting you to take us back to where Kibaki left us. That is one. Number two, yes, the man comes out very radical, and I don't know how Honorable Kirwa and the rest in the team would deal with this, because it is fresh in our minds, some of us. It is very fresh in our minds. We are not anytime going to forget what Rigathi Gachagua has been. So much as, yes, you are going to be a team, but trust me on this, some of us are going to see like this is more fire than William Ruto. When you end up, for example, with Rigathi Gachagua as your presidential candidate, it is fresh in our minds. Some of us who followed Raila, who supported Raila, including the first 2 years when Rigathi was deputy president, he completely told us who he is. Because, Fred, it is true. Give someone money, then you will know whether we are talking about religion, whether we are talking about being faithful in marriage and things like that. When I am poor, you will not know how faithful I am to my wife. Until I have, because sometimes I'm just given situations that I can't afford, and then I decide to be with my wife. But give me money, and then you will know whether I am truly that faithful husband. That is figuratively. So we've seen Rigathi in power. And some of us know for sure that he is not one candidate who some of us are going to be even wishing. We've seen Kalonzo in power, and we know how moderate he can be. We know how sometimes he would want to be a man who covers everybody else under his wings. So it is a lie to tell us that, okay, all of us want, and if any of us is picked, then we are all going to support. It's a lie. If some of you are picked, we are all going to revolt.
Thank you.
I'm being a truthful man.
Potential pitfalls of that announcement.
I'm happy your dede is as truthful as Gachagua. Because he's telling us what Gachagua has been telling us. But the most important thing is, Fred, you know as well as all of us know, is that when people meet, the first thing is that they will storm, then they will know, then they start performing. And it would be foolhardy for us, knowing that in the last election, the three of us around this table were with Raila Odinga. Because Mheshimiwa being Wiper member, myself, the last minute I left to William Ruto, and Odede has declared. So around this table we were with Raila. But many things have happened. Even Raila now is no longer with us. Those of us who believed that William Ruto did not present a choice for Kenyans. This therefore means the individuals, Gachagua was with William Ruto, and the rest of the team that you know I'm part of, many of them are with Raila. So we needed that time to still storm, and we are now, then we'll start norming, and eventually we'll start performing together in the same direction. The second issue is that many things change in politics, in the sense that today I used to be very firebrand, but today possibly I could be seen like a moderate, because there are many experiences I've gone through. I've been in government, and being in government as a minister, there are things I cannot promise today because I know they are not practical. But perhaps when I was just a member of parliament for Cherangan constituency, I would have promised, should I be a minister, should I be in government, these are the things I will do for you. The second issue, I just wanted to assist, know that I've shared a brief with Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua, but to restore the situation the way Kibaki left this country is not about what Kibaki was doing. is to allow institutions of government to operate. Because that was the maxim that President Kibaki believed in. If he made you a minister, you truly knew you had a job to protect, a job to perform, and a job to serve the public. And any time you went away from the line that he expected, and the institutions that deal with issues of justice caught up with you, Kibaki would look the other way. He will not protect you just because you happen to be loyal to him. That is what we want, and that's what we admire about Kibaki. And even at times, because I served under Kibaki, I served under Moi, and I've seen Uhuru, and I'm now seeing William Ruto. At times, even President Moi, despite the fact that he was using an old constitution, but he had a lot of restraint. Anytime he wanted to change things in a certain direction, he would engage institutions such as Parliament, first to change the law, so that the law that is going to operate is not going to go against the same constitution, including issues of detention without trial. That was provided by the constitution. But what we are finding anathema in the current regime is that they are doing things that they know they are going against the law. And they don't seem to, it doesn't seem to matter to any of the individuals in power today that we are doing something against the law. For example, what Odede said, even President Moi never held parliamentary group meetings in State House. He used to come to Kanu headquarters or use the chamber that now Senate is using in Parliament as a parliamentary group meeting. And by then, initially it was the only party. Kanu was the only party when I first served. So when it became multi-party, now he used to take us as Kanu members of Parliament to KICC, which at that time was seen to be the Kanu headquarters. So this is something that we need to assist the president today, that State House is meant for certain things. Parliamentarians ought to be met in different places. They have very nice headquarters on Ngong Road. And I would expect that if he's meeting UDA members of Parliament, he should be able to meet them there. So now what we are saying, Fred, is that we want to restore confidence in government, so that when you say you are a member of Parliament, you are a minister, you are a government official, people know that this person will be doing things the right way, because that is what is lacking among Kenyans. And you see, when teachers were celebrating, I knew many of them believe in the side that we are in. But you see, the maxim that is used in politics is that the most important thing is what happens when the candidate is not there. So what happened outside State House should actually be in the real story that you should be carrying out of the 10,000 teachers going to State House, not what was happening in State House. Because the candidate of two-term, President Ruto, was in State House. But outside State House, those teachers, as they went into their places, in their buses, they must have discussed many things. And I know teachers are good people, and they are very informed politically.
Right. On X, on our handle TV47 Digital, we are asking, we're running a poll regarding Gachagua as a presidency in 2027. Would you vote for him? So far, 53.8% say no. Yes, 38.5%. But the vote is still continuing, 23 hours left. We just posted it. So yes, it would be nice to see at the end what the general sentiment is about his candidature.
Before the protests.
No, let it be on record. I'm not protesting at personal level. I mean, that is democracy.
All right.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, on Facebook, we are asking about the previous discussion we were having about teachers, and we're asking what other reforms should be effected for teachers. I'm looking for the correct question. Yes. What other reforms should the government prioritize to support teachers? That's what we're asking there, beyond the 20% houses that we're not so sure the law allows. Justine Omai says, hire the GSS teachers whose contract ends this December. They promised to hire over 100,000 teachers. The GSS teachers should be part of this recruitment. Creating wealth for nation Kenya is the only agenda bigger than one-term and two-term shenanigans. Salesio Miriti Muroki says, giving them handouts. Really? Matthew K. Samuel says, let them keep bringing affordable housing. Vincent Leo Musito has numbered them. 1, make junior school autonomous. 2, review the CBC content for junior school. And 3, give junior school leadership to junior school teachers. These are just some of your sentiments on Facebook. Under that question, continue bringing us or sharing your feedback, and we will sample that as we continue, both on X and on Facebook. All right, we now want to move on to one last discussion, and because as we continue campaigning for the by-elections of November 27th, yes, the 23 different elections countrywide, 6 in the national and Senate, National Assembly and Senate and other wards. The IEBC has issued warnings to different parties. Let's watch that story so that we can discuss the by-elections and the dynamics that we've witnessed in the past 1 week. The IEBC giving a warning to political parties.
We are alarmed by the attitude the Commission has adopted towards political parties. The Commission has met with churches, foreign embassies, NGOs and other groups, but not with political parties who are its principal stakeholders. Even as we prepare for the upcoming by-elections, the Commission stubbornly refuses to engage with us. We are aware of a diabolical plot to deregister a number of political parties before the next general election on flimsy grounds. This scheme is in high gear, and the IEBC Commission may be well aware of or even complicit in it. Democracy must be defended by all means, and we as political parties shall defend it to the very end.
All right. Those are actually political parties issuing a warning to the IEBC in as far as their workings going towards 2027. But even before 2027, there's a by-election in November 27th. And 23 elections in 1 day is perhaps the biggest by-election we've ever seen under this constitution. This could be seen as a proper rehearsal or test for even new parties. We've seen the DCP withdraw candidates from the Mbeere North contest. And just wondering, what does this mean? The other big one is in Malava, where all parties, probably the initial party that was there, ANC, no longer exists, and now it's UDA going into the fray. And how do you see this panning out, given that we have new parties like DCP, which would have, ideally, gone for most of the contest to just gauge itself?
Maybe before I come to the issue of the political parties, just a quick one on what Odende was saying. His comments on the candidature of Honorable Likiji. You know, that's what I was saying earlier, Fred, that I think it's time we started analyzing, because Kenyans know these candidates. It's time we started analyzing them and let Kenyans talk about them freely so that whoever we get the best. But now coming to the political parties. You know, there's what we call data-driven campaigns and a data-driven politics. So that by the time you field your candidate, you need to have done enough research to find out whether you are able to win. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense just go to the field campaign and you lose. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes analysis which takes place. And I think in the spirit of the new formation, the new coalition which has been formed, there are areas where we know very well that even if you fielded a candidate, because of the local dynamics, you might not do well. And I think it's on the basis of that then DCP was able to withdraw some of the areas. And even other parties have done the same. Like in the Munguni by-election, the MCR by-election, you realize that our team is the only Wiper which has fielded a candidate there. The rest didn't. And this is what I'm saying, is the analysis you do before you go to the field. So, first thing is that the reason why you see parties, even the ones which are new, not fielding candidates, is because of the spirit of coalition. So that since we are saying we are working together as a new coalition, opposition coalition, then it doesn't make sense to start competing amongst ourselves. Because what we'll do, we'll divide that block called opposition bloc, and then you are likely to get somebody winning because of that division.
What about Malava? Because
now, what has happened in Malava, because Malava we have two, based on the analysis the same. You know, especially when you see we have fielded two candidates, the analysis shows very clearly that even if you field what, the opposition will be winning. So in that case, you don't have to worry because of the subdivision, because automatically, I can tell you for sure, Western is already gone. What will happen is, even if we fielded 5 people from the opposition, they will still be taking it. So I think it's based on those analysis that now we are saying that one we can allow also the party to test their ground. That because if DCP wins, or if DAP Kenya wins, it's still our side.
That will not divide the votes in any way?
I don't know, from the analysis, because the analysis has been done. I can tell you, Fred, that one we are taking home early in the morning. 27, you see it. But what you have said is the issue of the 23 by-elections. And what has triggered this because of the absence of the ABC is what triggered this. But to me, this is the highest number we have ever had in the past as a country, 23 by-elections. And it's actually like a mini election. So depending on the outcome of this 23, it will be telling Kenyans the direction the country will be taking. So either side must put that extra gear to make sure that we win majority of them.
Yes, and
because whoever wins that majority, it will be a
out of the 23, without even thinking how big the city is or how small it is.
It will be a signal of what will be happening in 2027.
Yeah, you must agree that out of the 23, parties are just looking at how many out of the 23 will my name be next to it. If UDA comes out with 14 or 15 out of the 23, they will, even if it's just MCAs, they will appear like they've won the next election. And that could actually shape the minds of Kenyans going
perception,
forward. Yes.
Basically.
Yeah, that's true, very true. It usually shapes. But one thing is also always common, like he says, data-driven. Kenyans love you a lot when you're out of power until they put you in power, and then they love the person they removed from power. And it happens a lot in most constituencies. So that is a big advantage to the united opposition, because they are starting from the point of Kenyans are definitely going to have a soft spot on the team of opposition. That is one. Number two, there is a debate. I don't know when we are going to have it, and I'm not sure whether political parties are already having it within their small groups. The 8 million Kenyans who did not vote in the 2022 general election, I think they are the game changer in this coming election, including those by-elections, because there is need to find out from a political party perspective, what were the issues of these 8 million Kenyans? And have we fixed it? Whether we are in opposition or in government, have we fixed it? Because the thinking here is, they didn't turn out to vote either for opposition or for the people who are in government. So it means they were dissatisfied by all sides. It is important for opposition to say, have we fixed what made them not to vote for either of us? Or even government should think the same way. Have we done what we needed to have done so that we attract these 8 million? Because for me, those are the people who are going to change the game in 2022, and they might want to send the signal maybe in the by-elections that are about to happen in November.
All right. And yes, I'm just reminded that, yes, the IEBC voter registration exercise kicks off 29th of this month. So possibly some of this who register, if the IEBC will be able to have been done to do away with that exercise before the by-election, probably have 5 million people more, and a good chunk of them could take part in those by-elections. As we come to a close, after the break, I'll be hosting the Deputy Chief of Staff in charge of Delivery and Government Efficiency, Bwana Eliud Owalo, and we're just looking at the 1,000 days of President William Ruto in office, which lapsed, I think, in June, there are 1,000 days. By now, it's 1,100 days or something like that. And that is the one conversation that we've been looking at the past 1 week or so, that he has less than 24 months to the next election. Yet, according to statistics, most of what he promised, including on his flagship projects, the Hustler Fund, the Affordable Housing, Social Health Authority. These are the projects that have faced the biggest criticism, and one wonders, 24 months, is it enough for him to have turned around any of those three? Probably.
Well, Fred, that's why there is this project now he has started, the one of promotion of individuals who seem to need a motorbike here and there, because he realizes actually in terms of government performance, he has failed. And what he should have taken, and I've always advised him, on media of course, because we don't have a chance to meet with him, is that it is not too late for him to say, Kenyans, this is what I promised. But what I realize is that the following are achievable within the time frame that the mandate you gave me will last. But the problem with him is that he's in some kind of denial. He believes that he can still perform, not realizing that he's the one who destroyed the performance parameters. Because there is what we call government. Government is not necessarily the politicians. We politicians are temporary structures within government framework. There is what we call public service. Public service is the body, the engine of government performance. So when he took over, he did things that even officers in government were scared. They did not know what to do. Because when you take over a government, you need first to give confidence to those who are likely to be there beyond you. For example, when I took over the Ministry of Agriculture, the first thing was to meet all the officers in the ministry, all the officers in the counties or the districts at that time, and give them confidence that I'll be relying on them. And we now had to structure performance parameters on what can we achieve in 90 days, what can we achieve in 1 year, what can we achieve in 5 years, and even what can we achieve in 10 years. And some of those things were achieved even when I left the ministry. But when the current president took over the reins of power, he scared everybody that he has to do everything. Because as I've said, he's a micromanager at best. And he does not believe that you know what you are doing until you tell him and he believes your story, or you tell him the way he wants to hear. So this is the problem that he has put himself in, and therefore he disorganized his own government. After disorganizing the government, is now trying to catch up with that disorganization. So it is likely that he's not going to do much. And the verdict is there. Kenyans may either choose somebody who believes in systems or choose him again for further destruction of this country.
All right. He may have hoped that in the first 5 years he'll be able to do at least one mega infrastructure project. So far, debt at 3.5 trillion shillings in the first 3 years, and no tangible, no physical infrastructure project that you can point out and say this one. The Rironi-Mau Summit Road still remains a discussion.
A pipe dream. And the truth of the matter is, when you look at the president address the nation, he does what we call self-evaluation, where you say, I've done this, I've done this. But some of us who are evaluation experts, the best evaluation is external evaluation. Anytime you talk to Kenyans, and you have been, I think the media, you are trying your best to capture the mood of the nation through the Kenyans, where you ask Kenyans, what do they think about the performance of this government? And I can tell you for sure, and I did say it earlier, I think President Ruto will not be very lucky as the first term. Because in terms of performance, I did say it earlier, he has not done very well. And I would wish when you meet the next person who is coming as a panelist, you ask them to list for you the number of promises in their manifesto. A quick attempt, I think there is about 270, the things they promised Kenyans. As at now, when you do a quick analysis, it's only about 14 which they have achieved. We're not saying they have achieved 0. 14 has been achieved. But 14 out of 270 is actually around 5%. So the question is, if you have achieved about 5% in 3 years, if you do just what we call logical thinking, It means in the next 2 years, you can only achieve less than 5%, meaning at the end of the 5 years, there will not be about 10% in terms of promises. And this is the challenge we want to push to Kenyans. In a situation where somebody has scored less than 10% or around 10% out of expected 100%, is that somebody who is supposed to be given a second term? Or is somebody who should be told, pave the way for a better government? And I think these are the issues, so that we become more objective in analyzing this matter. But all said and done, Kenya Kwanza regime is a regime which likes a lot of promises, a lot of talk. I can see a situation where even 2027 January, they will be still promising Kenyans to achieve something. They will be saying we will still do this in the remaining 8 months. But the truth of the matter is, this government has performed below expectation. It's time they honed up. I would like to do what Honorable Kiro is saying, where you can tell Kenyans, I'm sorry, Kenyans, I promise you this. These are the challenges I faced. How I wish you give me now another term. Based on the experience I've already gone through, I might be able to improve. Otherwise, this is a very good candidate to send home early in the morning.
And probably the promises were predicated on the hope, or the confidence rather, that a second term is guaranteed, that no president in Kenya just comes for one term, that he will have at least 5-6 years more to do these projects. Do you think that's the thinking that William Ruto had when he was coming into the presidency? That yes, I have until 2032, no need to rush.
Sure. I want to say yes, that is a thinking that not only him, but even people who supported him, politically, this is quote unquote politically, they told us, the supporters of William Ruto said Uhuru told them, yake 10, ya Ruto 10. And even when Uhuru tried to move away from that, they said, you told us, yako 10, na ya Ruto 10. So we are sticking with this. And then now, it means they voted him knowing it is 10. So right now, things have changed. But in that context, I wish things would have changed further, so that in 2027 and beyond, it is not the presidential candidate that gives us the promises so that we can vote them. It is the Kenyan people who sets the agenda of what we want the next government to do to us. And we need to understand that every election should be a standalone. It has nothing to do with if Honorable Kirwa was our president. It has nothing to do with how you are continuing. This election is a new whole thing. It's a standalone. It has nothing to do with what you have achieved and because you might have achieved, but we now need a different person. It's okay, it's democracy.
Are you saying Kenyans should not judge you based on your performance if you're seeking a second term?
That's what I'm saying. It should be a standalone. You see, the countries like the US, for example, when they go for their election, if this election is about gun in the hands of civilian, that is the topic. It doesn't matter how you achieved in the healthcare in the other government. This election is about removing guns from the hands of civilian who kills Americans. If this election is about economy, it is purely about economy. And if we are talking to you who is sitting on that chair as president, we are talking to you on economy. What have you done on it? So you can't begin to take us to the health, take us to education, take us to this. No, this election is about this. So I wish Kenyans would have been the one who dictates what this election is about. So if today we are saying cost of living is a problem for Kenyans, or healthcare is a problem for Kenyans, then the candidates should now be telling us how they are going to fix it. So it is not the candidates coming to tell us what they are going to do which is health, we are going to do education. No, it is Kenyans who should come out and say, this election of 2027, to us, it is about cost of living. It is about affording health care. So if Honorable Kirwa is coming, he is telling us the how he's going to fix the health care, because it is what is important to us in this election.
All right.
Yeah. But what is happening is opposite. It is the politician who comes to tell us what, and sometimes, or most times, we even fail to ask how.
All right. It is the same discussion happening in Tanzania. At least they're only 2 months to the, less than 2 months to the election.
Yeah. Yes.
I think a month and a half now. In Uganda as well, at least 3-4 months to the election. The conversations are totally different. We appear to have started ours, 23 months official campaigns. I have a minute each for your final comments, Bwana Kirwa.
Yeah, I just want to agree with my colleagues that this is a very trying moment for our current regime. But I think the most important thing is let's spend more time thinking how to consolidate the country, because what worries me today is not whether William Ruto will win or not. It is how are we going to carry ourselves beyond the next general election, because after 2027, Kenya must still be Kenya.
All right. Bwana Makalimulu.
Yeah, Fred, you know, you've reminded us that 29th, we start again voter registration. Kenyans, now you have the opportunity to arm yourself with a secret weapon to change this government. Anything else we say is just talk. The real game is now in the voters' card. Go out there, register yourselves, be ready for the war, so that come 2027, we'll have no regrets. You make your choice, and people will respect your choice after you make it. But that can only be done if you have a voters' card and an ID. Go out there and register.
Finally, Bwana Odede.
Thank you. I would want to give unsolicited advice to any side of the divide. The youth have shown that they can actually change things in this country in an ugly way or in a proper way. So the advice would be every corner of a political divide should start thinking of youth as a catalyst to the challenges we have as a country, not a problem to be solved.
All right. Thank you so much, Meshak Odede, political analyst, Dr. Makalimulu, MP Kitui Central, and Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who served as Agriculture Minister in the Kibaki 1 administration. And on X, that poll, TV47 Digital, Rigathi Gachagua eyes the presidency in 2027. Would you vote for him? Things have changed significantly. Now, yes, 53%, no, 31%, and the undecided 16%. This vote continues, and even the conversations on Facebook continue today on TV47 Kenya. You can also watch us on TV47 Kenya on YouTube. The headlines this morning: the housing bribe, that's the Standard. The men who control multi-billion state systems, that's the Daily Nation. 3 years later, Ruto's key projects face hurdles, and I think this is the biggest conversation we're getting into now. Matters Business, Old Mutual sells NSE stock broking unit to fintech firm. These are some of the conversations. And after the break, I'll be having Eli Dowalo, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff, Delivery and Government Efficiency, discussing government performance in the last 3 years, or if you like it, 1,000 days of President William Ruto in office. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time at TV47. See you after the break. My name is Freddie Ndimuli.